Hi, I'm Matt Hudgins. We're here with Wealthy Wise Dentist today. Our goal here is to bring you information that'll make you a wealthy and wise dentist. According to the ADA, only 4% of dentists can retire when they want, upon their own terms, dictating their own retirement. Along those lines today, I've invited Dr. Bill Williams. He's a dentist here in Atlanta and also a consultant. He's written a book called The Marketing the $1 Million Practice. And so, Bill, tell us a little about yourself, how you got into dentistry and how you got into being a consultant.
Matt, it's good to be with you here. Talking with a local guy is kind of fun. You know, we didn't have to connect across time zones. This is good. We could both get up at the same time of day and start this thing early in the morning.
Exactly right.
I got into dentistry in 1975. So I've been in practice 39 years. I went to the Medical College of Georgia, and I was sitting with my dad in a Dunkin' Donuts when I was in high school in Memphis, Tennessee. And I was a junior in high school, and we were sitting there talking about what I do as a profession. And we had a Ben Franklin balance sheet we put together, medicine or dentistry. I'd kind of narrowed it down between architect and scientist and medicine. So when it came down to choosing what school to go to and what I would study, dentistry won out, and it was a great idea. It turned out it was about the best decision I could have made, looking at all the things that have happened in healthcare. Dentistry is probably the top key profession in America right now.
Absolutely. And the opportunities to, as we call it, become wealthy and wise. What I'm curious about, what I love is that you've actually started 2 dental practices, and that's kind of what led you into being consulting. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I had a great practice down in Stone Mountain for 23 years, but over time, the area changed, the community got a little rough, and we decided we wanted to move to another place. And we chose Swanee. We started over at age 48, and went from a time where it was struggle to keep the practice going to starting totally over. And we built it up quite rapidly with some of the techniques that we talk about in the book. We grew $500,000 a year every year for 10 straight years, which basically we created a new dental practice every year. If you look at the national averages of what a common dental practice will do, 500 to 800,000. So we really recreated and grew our practice on top of each other every year for 10 years.
That's fantastic. That's amazing. I like that. I kind of call that the 10 times multiple. Here you are. You went from 0 to whatever. I think you said $6 million in a matter of 10 years. That's fantastic. And that's what's led you to be a consultant. You wanted to kind of teach other people how to do this?
Well, I'm always interested in teaching and sharing what I know. I've first did my first lecture in Toronto, Canada in 1981. I'd only been out of dental school 6 years when I started teaching internationally. I had an expertise in TMJ and reconstruction and orthodontics, and I taught that for 10 years around the country. And I did a few trips to Italy and Russia and other places just because I was interested in teaching. And so that bug has always been with me. Now I teach marketing, management, communication, and leadership.
That's fantastic. You're going to help other dentists be successful, basically.
I love being a resource for people. So yes, sharing what I know is what I'm all about.
That's fantastic. All right. So along those lines, let me ask you, in your opinion, what are the top 3 things that dentists are doing well today? Give me a little positive focus. Tell me what they're doing good.
If I'm looking across the landscape, I'm saying dentists do a really fine job of technical dentistry. They do what they know. And most dentists come out of school, they know really well how to be a good dentist. And so the public in America is so well taken care of. I've traveled all across the other countries of the world, and I see the differences. And it was particularly made clear to me when I went to Russia back in 1986, and I saw their state of dental care. And then I went to Scandinavia and saw their level. It's night and day difference between the West and the East, and the third world and the first world.
That's amazing. All right, so tell me, so they're technically doing things well here in the States. Give me a 2 and a 3.
Well, they're enjoying life. They're doing things positively. Most dentists have a great lifestyle. They're taking CE classes when they want to. They're taking vacations when they want to. They're living the life of Riley, I call it. A dental professional has the best of all worlds. So they can name their time. They don't work for anybody else typically, although that's changing quite a bit. people are beginning to be more of an employee than they are an owner.
And
so that's one of the big deals. I think dentists are still doing very well.
That's good. I like that life balance approach. All right, so that leads me right into the next question, which is tell me what the top 3 things dentists are not doing well.
I think a lot of them are a little bit stressed because they're not planning for retirement. They're not amassing a great sum of money to ensure that they can continue their lifestyle. And so I have a lot of dentists that I teach that are in my group who are in their 60s who have not any ability to retire soon. They're basically looking at the situation going, for me to keep my lifestyle up and keep all my payments up to my kids in college still, because a lot of dentists had kids late in life and they still got kids to put through college and they're 60 years old. I'm looking at that as one of the big things, and they don't plan as well as they should. The cost of living has gone up, and even though we're in the catbird seat in our profession, we still have a lot to do in that realm of financial awareness.
That's good. I totally understand and totally agree with that. We're seeing that as well. All right, tell me number 2.
Most dentists fail to bring in an associate dentist at the right time. So one of my game plans for dentists as I work with them is to transition out of their practice or to maximize the value of their practice. And most dentists, I think it's like 70 or 80% are solo practitioners locked into a model of dentistry that I think is probably outdated. There's a time where solo practice was probably wise, and I think that day is slipping away. And the people who are progressive are going to survive and thrive in the next 20 years are those who own practices, who work with multiple associates.
And they need now that's interesting. I like what you talked about when we talked offline earlier. Was you like the idea of adding an associate? How much is an associate worth to a dentist?
Well, I've had 19 associates over the 39 years, and of course, I didn't start out with an associate, but I remember the first fellow that worked for me. He talked his way into my office. He saw what we were doing. His instructor in dental school said, "You need to go over and try to work with this guy. He's doing really well." And that was when I was 5 years in practice. So I took him my first associate, and within 3 or 4 or 5 years, right after dental school. And what I found out was if you can keep an associate busy, and that's not hard to do if you market well, each associate will bring in $100,000 to $200,000 of profit for the owner dentist. And that's no small amount of money. Some people don't even take that much home as an owner dentist.
I was going to say that's fantastic. So you're saying bring in an associate, we train him well, we market him well, and that can be worth $100,000 to $200,000 to the bottom line of the main doctor.
Right. Well, see, we bring in associates when we need one, and I've kind of did it in a stepwise manner. I didn't just bring 4 in at one time. I brought one in, got them busy, brought another one in, got them busy. And so it might take about 2 years for one associate to reach the level of $1 million practice. Once they reach the level of $1 million practice and they're bringing in that much money, they're going to take in $200,000 or $300,000 themselves for their own pocket. The practice is going to have an overhead increase with staff and expenses of, maybe $500,000, but that's still going to leave $1, $2, even $300,000 left over for the associate from his production for the owner.
That's fantastic. Along those lines, we talked about offline about your 5 or 10 year plan for retirement. How a lot of dentists, this goes back to the number one problem you're talking about, not prepared for retirement, and how you're saying a lot of dentists just start to slow down their practice kind of towards the end. But that's different. Your philosophy is, hey, let's bring in the associates and really ramp up the value of the firm so you can maximize it when you want to sell. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, think about the bell curve. Most people will work hard, grow their practice, and then as they start to think about retirement and they get tired, they want to slow down. And if you're by yourself, slowing down makes a lot of sense because you don't feel like working as hard when you're 65, 70 years old. That just doesn't feel good. It doesn't work well, and your body may not can take it. So my thought, and I came to this realization when I was about 50 years old. I started over from scratch, not thinking I would build this huge monster practice again, because I'd done that in Stone Mountain, where I had about 12 operatories, 8,000 square foot building, several associates. But when I started out, I just couldn't help it. I kept building it, and it kept growing. So I said, well, I will add an associate. And I took a concept where I had an expandable building. That was the whole key. And I grew from one associate to 2 to 3, and finally 4. And then it dawned on me, why not make that a strategic plan, not just an accident? If you actually think about it when you're a young dentist and you plan for this event, that you will retire one day, that you will want to sell your asset one day, why not make your asset worth twice as much at the time you want to sell it, rather than half as much when you need to sell it? So what we did, we set up a game plan that we would have a certain number of operatories and have a dentist working and try to maximize the production in the last 2 years before I sold it. And so the game plan is to maximize your revenue, and associates is the best way to do that. You can't work yourself 8 hours a day, 10 days a week, because you only got 5 days typically that you're going to work. But you can often work 10 days a week if you have an associate. You could work 5 and they can work 5. So that's the concept. You're building your business on other people's efforts, but you're the owner, so you sell the whole thing.
Right. You know what I really like what you said over here? I wrote this down. Let's make it a plan and not an accident. I mean, I think that's kind of your whole theme here is don't just trip along. Let's make it a plan, not an accident. So I want to get back to the third thing you talked about over here was efficiency, that a dentist practice needs to be run more efficiently. And I love the example you give just even of yourself and how efficient you are with your work. Tell us a little bit about that.
I don't think people grasp the concept of efficiency. It's not just moving fast. It's thinking fast. And what we do is we think in advance, and we set up systems so that we don't have to think again. And so efficiency comes in the mind more than it comes in your hands. I could do the 90-second crown prep, and that's what people think of sometimes as efficiency, with a stopwatch, and you're figuring out how fast you can move a patient, how fast you can cut a crown prep or a class 1 prep. But really, the efficiency model is when I can spend all my time doing productive procedures and not any time doing unproductive procedures. And so what we've done is eliminate a great deal of the non-productive time and delegated that to staff members. We've shortened the time it takes for patients to decide what to do. In other words, we market in a certain way that people come in expecting to buy from us. We market certain types of patients, so they'll come in and know that what we recommend is what they should do, because we create something called the expert status and the authority position. So they're coming to us for second opinions. They've already been around to 2 or 3 other dentists, but when they come in our office, it's a different atmosphere, it's a different feeling. And so we're working on higher end cases. We're getting more dollar per sale. Not only are we efficient in our actions, but we're efficient in what we attract.
Oh, I like that. So you're saying, I see 3 things here. One, you're saying you're very targeted on the marketing that you do. You are an expert and you target the right people to come in to begin with. But number 2, you're talking about what I really liked. I wrote it down. You like to think in advance and set up the systems in advance. So you're not talking about just literally the stop clock of how long it takes to prep. You're talking about, hey, we got systems in place. So me, the doctor, I'm spending my time doing productive things that bring in income for the practice.
Absolutely. There's 20, 30 systems you could put in place in any practice that would increase efficiency by 50%. There's a reason why I'm producing twice as much in half the time as other dentists.
Tell me what's got
to be it's not an accident. It's a future of choice, not chance. You just choose what you I choose a preferred future rather than one that somebody just happens to give me. And I don't accept what other people tell me as far as what's possible. I used to have this saying that Omer Reed taught me a long time ago, because I've been a student of his for many years. He said, anything's possible I kind of use that as my main my goal for 20, 30 years. You know, if it's been done, it's probably possible. That's the exact quote that I've always used. If it's been done, it's probably possible. But then I got kind of convicted on that, and it wasn't really about my thought. It wasn't really the way I wanted to do it that really mattered. And I changed my way. And if you go through my book, you'll read about this conversion that I went through, where I went through a thing called halftime. And I realized that it was not my thinking and my plan that made the most sense. It was God's plan. And so I really focused back on my purpose and why I was a dentist. And the change from Stone Mountain to Swanee also occurred with a change in my my understanding of what God had for me in life. Okay. And so on that same line, the change in the quote that I think now makes the most difference is, if it's been done, it's probably possible. It was good for a guy, a man, but with God, all things are possible. And so I'm not limited now by what's been done by other people.
Oh, I like
so
that.
Now
Yeah, I like that a lot.
I put my trust in the Lord. I will pray regularly about which way to go, what to do, because if it meets God's plan, then I'm usually going to be protected and supported in the spiritual realm, not just, you know, among my friends and my wife and my family. It's a lot more powerful position to come from, is what I'm saying.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I hear that like a purpose-driven life kind of thing, but also everything that keeps resonating is that it's not by chance, it's by choice. All of the things that you're doing are not by chance or by choice. You might not have realized that in advance, but you realize it now, and that's kind of the impetus for the book and the consulting.
It's true. Yeah, I have a message and I have a calling, and after a lot of prayer, God said, your calling is to teach dentists how to be successful. And he told me specifically how to do that. And I was supposed to not go off into other business and do other things. I was supposed to stay in dentistry for my entire career. And, you know, there was a time back in the 90s that I was looking at maybe getting out of dentistry and doing international sales and crazy stuff. So I went to Russia and Indonesia and did some stuff. And none of that worked out so well. So really the calling is true to dentistry, and I'm here to mentor other dentists. That's really my purpose.
Right. And I can see that. It seems like a great mentor to have. Built 2 practices. You like systems. You like to teach. It's kind of a passion of yours. I love it. All right, so we're headed down to the home stretch, and it's really the last series of questions. Let's talk about the top 3 opportunities that dentists have today.
Well, let's see. I think I made a note about that one. Opportunities. In my day, we had to travel and go somewhere to learn. And so I was out of town every other weekend for 5, 6, 7 years, learning my TMJ, orthodontics, all the stuff. And then in the next decade or 2, it was marketing and management and those things that I put my time in. Not quite as much online on the road as I was back in the early 80s, but still a lot of road warrior work. Now everything's online, and the big thing for any dentist right now is they can become an expert without traveling. They can do what we're doing right now. They can look at a video. They can pick up on the newest things that came up, and they don't have to wait for them to get printed. They don't have to wait for them to get put on a DVD. They could just look live online. And so we do a lot of work, and a lot of my training now is available that I take from other dentists and also from other marketers. I take online classes and I give online classes. So that's number 1. Number 2 is you shouldn't limit your training just to technical courses in dentistry. If you want to be successful in dentistry, you got to become basically an MBA of business in dentistry. Marketing, leadership, communication, not just how to do a crown prep faster, how to do a root canal better, but you got to become a businessman. Study that whole area to become an excellent practice owner.
Right, exactly right. And one of my things about that I've been saying lately is a dentist he's a business owner. He just happens to specialize in dentistry. You can have a business owner down the street that happens to specialize in widgets. But these guys are dentists. They are actual business owners and entrepreneurs, and that's how they have to think of themselves.
the dentist who actually gets that picture in their mind that that's who they are will be twice as successful as those who think they're a dentist.
See, that's amazing. That's fantastic. So you got to embrace, you really have to embrace being an entrepreneur, embrace being a business owner, and learn about it because the opportunities are endless. That's what you're telling us.
Absolutely.
All right. So then as we wrap up here, tell us a little bit about where we can find you, your website. Give us a parting words of wisdom, if you would.
I'm SwannieDental.com and AtlantaGeneralDental.com as far as my dental practice goes. If you want to go and see what we do on our website, you can find me on Facebook at William B. Williams personal page, and you can go to Swannie Dental Care on Facebook. I've got LinkedIn, Dr. Bill Williams. I've got WB Williams YouTube channel. So I'm all across every social media outlet you can find. We'll be having a footprint there, and I think that serves us pretty well. If you want to find out about my consulting, SolsticeDentalAdvisors.com, and you can look that up. Google Solstice Dental Advisors. That's an ORS on the advisors. If you look me up, you'll find different ways to interact. We published a book back in May 1st was the outlet date, and so we got to be #1 on Amazon within the first week in all of dentistry. So 14,000 books, we were #1, which I'm very proud of. And probably even more important, in marketing on Amazon, we were number 15 out of 400,000 books. So we had quite a splash there when we opened up the door and started selling the book. And a lot of dentists have bought it, a lot of physicians, a lot of other people outside of dentistry. What's interesting is a lot of CPAs and financial planners have bought the book because it looks like they want their clients to do the same thing I'm doing so they can invest all their money.
We all win when everybody makes more money. Everybody's happier, right, Bill?
Man, if I could help you add $1 million to your bottom line in the next 2 or 3 years, I think it would make you happy, and that's what we do.
And that's what you do. That's great. You've been a great guest. I really appreciate it. Check out his website. Check out his consulting. Check out his book on Amazon.com. All this will be on WealthWiseDentist.com. Bill, I really appreciate it. You've been a great host. I mean, a great guest, and we'll do it again soon. I appreciate it. Have a good one.
I look forward to talking with you again, Matt. Have a good day.
All right. You too.